Good evening and welcome to the March Rutherford County Public Safety Committee. Glad to see all of y'all here this evening. Some faces that we see once a year, budget time. So we're glad you're here. And also everyone looking in at home. And to begin with, I'll entertain a motion on the minutes from the last time.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And we'll begin. I don't see Mr. Gregory here, and I don't see Mr. Good. So their reports are just on the iPad, and we'll look at those as last thing tonight, and we'll start. Just make it 2 months in a row?
I think we're on a roll.
The Sheriff's Department, if they'll come forward. Okay.
Start with amendment first.
Okay.
Running short in overtime for the jail detention officers. Y'all know we've been running short all year as far as being up to our employees all having jobs. So I'm asking for $50,000 out of the guard 160 line item to put in the overtime. It's all within the same budgets.
And it says down here, it'll cover for the rest of the year.
We had figured we got some help, of course, policing them too, so we feel like it should cover. And you should see a decrease because all our classification and stuff like that is complete. How many are we lagging?
I guess
10?
slightly explain what's happened is we've had to go through and reclassify our entire jail population. That had not been done in quite some time as far as properly classifying our inmates. So we've gone through and we've reclassified every inmate, and it necessitated actually physically moving inmates from one floor to another to get people with light crimes together as opposed to somebody with a felony with a misdemeanor and so forth. So that's taken a huge effort and a lot of time to do that. In addition, we've had complete searches of all of our pods during this time to make sure that we didn't have any contraband and so forth in the facilities. And so there's some things going on now that we are incorporating that will become a part of our normal routine. We're actually having to play catch up in a lot of cases right now on some things that had not been done. So that's necessitated some overtime that normally we would not have spent. And of course, obviously, a lot of this, we're trying to get our jail certified, and a lot of this is getting ourselves in line so that we have our procedures in place that when they do come back and do the full certification process, we're in compliance.
Did it also allow you to get some more to the work center with the reclassification?
Well, we've got a steady flow going to the work center, and we, of course, provide them, and then Bill's group looks at the ones that can medically be sent, and I mean, we've got great cooperation going on between the two facilities right now.
You've heard the request.
I make a motion to approve the request as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion in several seconds. Any further questions? Call the roll, please, Ms. Sheldon.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Okay, the other request that I'd like to make is an offender pre-release case management. It's a no matching grant. We can request up to $65,000 a year for a 3-year period. And what this is this is a program that's already in place through Doors of Hope at our workhouse. And we're wanting to incorporate this at the Sheriff's Office at the detention facility. And what we're doing is a trial program where we would start out with the female inmates, and it would be a partnership with Doors of Hope. The person would actually be employed by them, but they would voucher us through this grant for the employee and supplies. And what this would provide would be education, intervention of addiction, skill building, and support services. And so we can apply for this up to 3 years and up to a maximum of $65,000. We don't have our budget set, so we don't really know exactly where in that, but it's a no match grant, and so we'd like to have permission to move forward with that.
And this is basically what we heard last month from the Correctional Work
Yeah,
Center,
yes.
right? So it's, and
Yes,
this one
in line.
again is all females.
That this is all
At
females
this
in our
time.
facility at this time. If it's successful, they're looking at expanding it beyond that to the male population also.
Does the grant change, Sheriff, if the population that could be impacted by that changes? If that grows, does the grant grow, or is it a steady grant regardless of how many people are involved?
Right
in the
now, it's a
program?
3-year, as we understand it, it's a 3-year trial grant,
Okay.
and we would be looking at 3 years for females only. Obviously, if there's success earlier than that, then I don't know what our options will be to go back and try to expand this, or if there'll be more funds available
Got it.
through a different type
Okay.
of grant. But the funds were there. We thought, well, gosh, let's ask for it. It's not going to cost us, and it's right along with the programs that we're trying to instill and install at the sheriff's office.
Heard the request. Do we have a motion on it? Further questions?
Move to approve the request. Second.
We have a motion, a second. No. Well, we need to put in all signatures on this.
I would say so. I would think it would not hurt.
That just covers in case.
Yes, sir. I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Is that okay with
That
you?
is okay.
All right. Well, I think that so the actual budget that all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
That's all we've got.
Okay. Your report, is there anything unusual? Anything to get from-
No, sir, I don't think.
3 months to go.
Straightforward.
We're in good shape. I'm not going to ask for more food money or anything.
We're not looking for any.
All right, that sounds great.
We are good.
All right. Well, I'll see you next month.
Be some Cheetos or something.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll approve this report at the end with all the rest of it, okay? All right. Superintendent Coe, Correctional Work Center.
Evening.
Good evening.
We have our normal reports here, our yearly activity report for our work release program, our yearly activity report for the head count, our worker report. So no significant changes in those reports over the last month. And we also have the minutes from our board meeting in that packet also.
And where was the article? What paper, newsletter, or what?
I think that was the WGNS that did that one.
Okay.
And that was a little extra program that we did using those ladies that we talked about last month in the therapeutic community. We picked out a local nonprofit that takes care of children and donated some banks with some colors and things like that, and a little bit of money, and had the inmates put them together in packets and send it over there to them for Valentine's Day. So it's a little bit of giving back to the community on those inmates' part.
Do we have any questions on this reports. We'll get, there is a revised budget in there that we'll get to after the report.
Not a question on the report, but for Mr. Cope, how many companies currently utilize inmate help? I saw in your minutes that there was a new organization that had reached out and hired 3 inmates full-time. How many total right now?
We have 5 currently.
5?
Yes, sir.
Just was curious how do we expand that, or is there a way, we could help make sure people are aware of those opportunities?
We've got our work release coordinator that goes out in the community and kind of networks, but any of the local companies that you might speak with that might want some of that labor, I mean, it's a great idea.
Right.
The inmates are going to be there on time every day.
Yeah.
It's not a question of that.
Yeah.
We transport them there to the sites. It's very seamless when one is released or rejected from the program. We've got somebody to go right away. So for a company, it's a great idea. And some of the places that we're working with currently, let's just face it, those are some of the employees they have already. So we're not talking about the dregs of society that are working there. These are guys that have just made some mistakes, and they've gone through the process of being interviewed and being selected for the program, and they have skill sets that are needed by some of these companies. So it's a great program. So if you're ever out in the community and you happen to run across somebody, please let them know about it.
We'll entertain a motion on the reports.
Make a motion to approve the reports as presented.
Second.
We got a motion, a second. Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And you want to talk about an item in your budget that we discussed last week?
Yes, sir. We discussed last month, and Ms. Mary Dale Williams was here to kind of give you a brief overview of what she does and her organization does it within the facility. And we talked about being able to sustain that program in the future, and that it would quite possibly take some money to offset some of those costs. So we spoke with our board about it, and I spoke with the mayor about it, and we'd like to request to revise our budget to add $35,000 to line 399 for other contracted services. And like I said, she's got 2 employees who are coming in 3 days a week, working 8 hours a day with this female population. That's almost unheard of in any facility, especially doing it through volunteer services. I mean, you're not going to find that.
Well, we just discussed this pretty thoroughly last month, and I think we all thought it was a pretty good idea. The big thing was we didn't know whether to put it in Work Center's budget or put it with the nonprofit agencies later on when that comes out. And, Mr. Cope and the mayor thinks it would work out better with more accountability in the workhouse's budget, so that's why he's bringing it before us tonight. So, any further questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we increase the budget as requested.
Second.
Motion is second. Further questions? I think it's, before we take the vote on it, I just want to say I think it's a good thing for the females. We don't have a whole lot. There's a lot. Most of these other programs can be for both, but they're predominantly males.
They are.
So that is, and this is what the sheriff just talked to us about. So, any further questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. one of our favorite people that we get to see each year. How you doing, Judge?
We'll see until I open my mouth. Then I might not be your favorite this year.
Oh,
I have copies. Do y'all have that on your pads, or would you want a copy?
We don't have it on the
we'd like,
Oh, you don't? Okay.
I didn't have it this afternoon.
You need it, Judge?
Of course, with our growth, you're going to hear that from all departments. Our main thing that we are asking for that is impacting the budget is another full-time magistrate, and you see that in 189. And with that, that means that we would be doing 3 courts every day. Right now, we do 3 courts of almost 3 days a week. And we make our hearing room work for that, and we would continue doing that. But with that request, we would also ask for a full-time court officer. Right now, I just have a limited budget, and we do part-time, and they work so many hours, but they can't get but 20-something hours a week. But I'd still need, and then of course our judicial commissioner is in my budget that was new last year. We have 1 judicial commissioner that works out of our detention facility. That's the main, and of course with that increase then, if you look down to dues and memberships and travel, that goes up about 1,000, I think, in each one of those categories to take care of a full-time person. In part of the, I was in touch with Ms. Carlton, and she's been very helpful in trying to increase our child support 4D magistrate money to go, and we have that approval to go from 2 days to 3 days a week to increase to help with that docket. And that is a matching amount. So I know y'all need to take a moment and look and digest that.
Judge, you're only doing what, you say 3 days right now?
We're doing every Monday and Tuesday, and every other Thursday, and some Thursdays, depending on the gravity of the emergency cases that we get. Yes, we're doing that now, and we're setting cases out. I'm setting cases in December.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. I guess you're getting into a backlog then.
Backlog, when we're just setting cases out to then, and like
At a distance.
we do, and when we have those emergency removals, which we're the only court that does that on the abused children, like I did one today, that has to be set by no later than Wednesday. So we have to do that. I mean, in those, we can't ever know how those are going, and then after that, it's 30 days. And it's the urgency of those that log down the court more than any other type of case that we deal with.
So when you set the dates way out there, and these are juveniles, that sort of puts a...
Not normally the juveniles committing crimes. Those are the little bit of time that we spend in juvenile. Most of the times that we do are the abuse cases. They take days of trial. They may take expert testimony. And we also do termination of parental rights. Those take days and days of proof. So it's not a hearing that you can do in an hour or 2. None of those abuse cases are. And then we also, with the child support, we do enforcement of orders, establishing the parentage, and with all that, they never go away. There's always an issue of enforcement or a modification, and those are multiplying because it's children born out of wedlock that come into our court too. So that's a massive amount of our cases as well.
So you're saying the parents are the problem?
Not on you, not on the camera, no sir. I'm not saying that.
That's what I would gather from the conversation.
And I'll be glad to answer any questions whatsoever. Now, if you'll notice down in contract services, if we get the full-time, that's in $399, that goes down from 55 to 1. Because that contract services is where I pay for the part-time magistrate now. We have 1 full-time that you pay full-time, And then we have a part-time, and that's the gentleman that works every Monday, Tuesday, and most Thursdays. And we pay for his salary out of the contract services. So we wouldn't have him if we do full-time. And then when you digest that, I want to give you another option. When you're ready for another option that we could live with.
So your budget increase is pretty much just the full-time magistrate for the
And the
most part,
full-time
and the
court officer.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the 248,000 includes a full-time
Includes both of
magistrate, one step, add a full-time magistrate, add a full-time court officer, and a full-time judicial commissioner.
Well, we've already had the judicial commissioner. They would
This
just
is
get a
just putting
step.
it into this budget.
Well, he was in last year's budget. We just have to give him a step.
Okay.
Okay.
But those four are in the 248,000.
Another option would be, because I know the expense of a full-time with all the benefits, if we could hire one magistrate to do the child support and subsidize theirs with the 4D funding that comes down for that a person 3 days a week. And then if we could just have another body to work 3 to 5 days a week and put it back under a contract service, see, they pay their own taxes, then that would still give us help. I need another person every day to help somehow with getting all the cases heard.
Would you have more trouble finding a person that would, the way you just said, than you would as a full-time magistrate?
I think that we could find either one. I'll be honest. I could say, oh, no, I'm not going to, but no, I think that we could.
Well, it's going to save us all the benefits then.
Well, it would, you know, but of course, that person has to pay their taxes, and mostly that person would be practicing law. So there's times when they have conflicts, and that causes then someone else to have to hear it. And because they're still practicing law, they're not practicing in juvenile court, but they're practicing law somewhere. So they may have a conflict of any type. They may be somebody that they practice law with, might bring a case in where they couldn't hear that case.
It would seem to me that if we're going to plan, be proactive instead of reactive, then we need to go with the full-time people where they can get familiar. Because what you're saying is this increase has come on in the last 2 or 3 years to a point where we're at almost at a crisis. We want to avoid a crisis. And so therefore, if we don't keep from getting in a crisis, we really need to go on and bite the bullet.
And we've asked for every year, but we've always said we'll make do and we'll make it happen. But we are now where some of our children are not being serviced because we just do not have the court time. I mean, I've done hearings at 6 in the morning. From 6 to 9, I can get a half a day in. And I've done that on a regular basis. So it's just food for thought for y'all to think about of what our requests are. I mean, you got a lot. This is just the start. I understand that.
You and the mayor talk yet?
Yes, sir.
Any
We've
agrees?
met. Well, we're still filling in some blanks, I think, aren't we, Mayor? We're still negotiating. But those are some options that we could do.
Well, see, we put in a third general sessions judge in 2006. This year, we put in a fourth general session judge. You see right there how everything, the county's growing.
And I've been here 16, and you just got one a few years ago.
So you know that the younger ones are growing too. And whether the percentage of crimes goes down or not, there's still a lot more people in this county. So the number's gonna go up. So.
Just whether we're proactive or
Yeah,
reactive.
that's a good way to put it, Mr. Gorman. Further questions?
So for your benefit, option 1 would be the best for you and your department over option 2?
It would, because we know they're always going to be there. And then there couldn't be any conflicts. But option 2 would work, but it might not work for long. I've always tried to be reasonable and very frugal with the county's money. But we need help to get some more cases heard. And I will have to say Judge Ashott has helped me out when I've had a conflict. We all went to conference in February. We can't close. Our court never closes. We have to be there every day. And she came in and did our detention docket that Monday. And Judge Tidwell and Judge Gilly have really helped me out as well, since they've been elected from time to time. But they have their own to do as well. So,
I'll make the motion to pass your budget on with a positive recommendation.
Second.
Motion is second. Further questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
thank you very much.
Well, we're looking at a lot of increases in this county over everywhere. We got one means to pay for it, basically. Okay. EMA.
Juvenile.
Did I skip somebody?
I would love to
Juvenile
go-
detention.
I would love to go next, but
Excuse me.
I don't want to put in a detention
I saw
facility.
too much yellow on this sheet. Oh, I was almost in trouble.
I already did it, Becky. All right, so I have a report this evening, and I have 2 amendments to discuss, as well as my budget.
We want to look at the, go over the report first.
Okay. On the first page of the report is the information that you're used to seeing. Probably the only thing that might catch your eye is the amount of money that we are waiting to receive from Sumner County and Franklin. However, that is just because they had a big month. It's not because they're behind. And we've never had an issue with either of those 2 counties paying for their detention beds. So that should not be an issue. And I can continue, or I can, okay. Second page is the STD information, and this is a monumental moment because for the month of February, we had a 0 positive percentage from 27 young people that we screened, so that's fabulous news. The third page is all of the information regarding our facility programming, and we are continuing to be able to offer the programs that you see listed. And then the fourth page of the usual report is just the information regarding the charges of the young people that are coming in and from where those petitions are coming from. And it's nothing particularly unusual there, just showing those counties that are using us quite a bit.
Well, look to me. Let's go back to that one. Wilson County. Okay, it's far right. It has getting into a lot of growth out there. I just aggravated burglary and aggravated assaults, and way more than all the rest of them combined.
Right, and we haven't, called to inquire as to if they've got new programs or new SROs, or if they're just having an increase in population or what, but they're pleased with the service that they're receiving, and they continue to send young people. So as long as we have the space, we will put them in one.
But some of that, they're not giving you troubles then when you get here?
No.
Okay.
If you listen to the news about Juliet's had a lot of crime lately involving juveniles.
Okay, that's the end of the report.
And that's the end of the report.
Okay, we'll take a motion on the report.
Motion to approve the report is presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Budget items.
Okay, I have the amendment for $15,495 first. Is that how it's loaded? Okay. So on this particular budget amendment, this is strictly Title I money that we are moving from within our Title I grant line items to other line items within our budget. We're moving it around so that we can use it instead of turning it back in. The main reason that it hasn't been spent to date is because we've had a educational assistant position that has not been filled for the amount of time that we've had money for. So we're going to take those monies and use them to get various and sundry educational supplies and teaching aids. And the Title I program allows for that, and they have no issue with it.
I thought there were two of them.
You want me to go to the next one?
Yeah.
Are we ready for that one too?
And anybody have an objection?
Okay, the second amendment is for $6,000. This is also from within our current budget. We're moving $6,000 from a part-time line item into overtime pay. And that is to pay out some accrued comp time and to have some additional funds for, to cover some vacant positions.
You've heard the request. It's all within our budget.
Make a motion to approve the budget amendments as submitted and forward to budget.
Motion is second. Any further questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Okay, and then I've passed out our current request for our fiscal year 17-18 budget. I don't know if you'd like to proceed line item by line item. If you'd like to take a look at it and then go from there, and I will answer any questions however you so choose.
Just tell us where you're in.
Hit the highlights? Okay. In line item 115, which is sergeants, I am currently asking for one new sergeant position. My hope is to take some of the responsibilities that the top three administration in my department are currently doing and divide that out for a new sergeant, as well as look into ACA accreditation. And my hopes would be that that would be the ACA accreditation manager, and then I would like for them to take over our PREA compliance program, which is something that I currently do. So that is to free up administration to allow us to be a little more available to be proactive and not reactive. So that's one new item in this budget. Want me to keep going? Okay. The next line item is line item 160. This has one additional corporal position that I would like to act as a full-time FTO in our department. Currently, in addition to some of these items that we just talked about, my top three administrators are also trying to be trainers on duty with new employees and handling our in-service as well. I also rely currently very heavily on my shift sergeants and corporals to do that. So they're trying to train the new people at the same time that they are actually supervising a shift, and it's time for us to have someone do that as their main and sole purpose, to keep everybody up to date. So there is one new corporal requested in this line item. The next several line items on the left, you will see several that beside the number have the letters TITL1, that stands for Title I. This year, the Board of Education is being given the Title I grants from the state of Tennessee. And so all of the money for the position that we have, except for 1 month, because their grant cycle is different from our county fiscal year, will be moving to the Board of Education for Title I-D. So anytime you see it noted that where I've written BOE, that stands for Board of Education, and that means that that was money that was coming to juvenile detention for that grant, but will now be in the Board of Education's line items. There are just a minor increase in 307 for communication, and that's the first page. I can either stop at the first page or we can continue to the second. All right. On the second page, the first line item, 317, there's a minor increase in that line item currently shown. However, in the event that the county no longer uses the computer company GSA, that will actually decrease. On 334, there is a minor increase due to a potential 9% increase overall with Stanley. They couldn't be any more specific than that, so I just included that for their account. Some of these line items on this second page will be changing somewhat based on some of that Title I grant money either coming out of it or moving. As an example, the line item 336 has been reduced, but it's because we're not putting that Title I grant money into that line item. So that is an example of a change. And line item 340, that's where we pay for our contract medical with Rudd Medical. I am currently using the budget figures from this current year. We are in the process of doing an RFP. So Rudd may or may not be the medical contractor in the coming year, depending upon who responds to the RFP and what those prices are.
Have we had anybody else bid on it in the last few years?
I am unsure.
I don't think we have
Not
we?
previously.
I can tell you that we are very pleased with the service that we're currently receiving from Rudd.
There won't be any 7,000 next year.
Let's see here. Travel is line item 355. It has gone up. That's because we are hopeful to get some more training opportunities that we have in the past not taken. That's the same. Next line item that has moved up a little bit is 435, and that is our office supplies. That had a minor increase. $499 has also had a minor increase. It is now time, just in our general cycle of replacing things, to replace several of our detainee uniforms and mattresses as a a large hit for this line item when we have to do that. We are also having to do driver's license checks that we have to pay for this year that we've not had to pay for in the back, and we are in desperate need of two 24-hour chairs, which are a little more expensive than normal office chairs because we have somebody in them 24 hours a day. So that's the increase in that line item. The last line item is $790. This has increased some. We are needing to upgrade our hard drive upgrade kit for our DVD system. This, when the Correctional Work Center and the Juvenile Detention Center were built, there was the Correctional Work Center occupied first, and then Juvenile Detention occupied second. Both of our systems are similar. They're practically the same thing. The CWC has already had to replace theirs. It's just kind of the end of its life cycle. Our hard drive is dying a slow death right now, and we're band-aiding it. So we are at a place where we need to go ahead and do the same upgrades that the Work Center has done in the past. And then additionally in that line item, I need to replace 10 handheld portable radios not additional radios, they're just replacing broken ones. So overall, I've got about a 3% increase in this budget. The major cost being those two positions and the hard drive.
Two years ago, how many part-time personnel did you have? Because you're saying that you have 4 part-time detention officers now.
I don't know when we went to 4. We currently have 4, so it's not an increase over last year. I honestly would have to look to see.
Well, I'm just looking at the 15-16 budget there for part-time personnel in that same line, and it's got 35,000 in it. Now, this year we're in now, it has 99, and it's going down to 90. So that something tells me people changed.
Part of that is the Title I monies that were also put into 169.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at 15-16, you can see like right under the regular one is some Title I money. So, and the Title I positions have changed. We started off with a certain number of EAs. One of the things that is great about Title I-D is that when they have an excess in one area of the state, they will share that excess with anybody who is able to use that money. So we were able to put extra money in part-time, hire an extra person, and some money doesn't always stay the same with that grant money. It can make it complicated to keep up with, but we are able to be flexible with those EA positions. The line item 169 has both juvenile detention officers that are part-time employees and those Title I EAs that are part-time employees.
I have a question. When is the last time you added a sergeant or corporal? Which budget year?
I believe that would have been I would like to go back and double check, but it may have been 2008 when we moved from the old facility to the new facility.
So you've been at 5 sergeants and 5 corporals for some time?
Yes, now in that corporal line item is a teacher who is classified in that pay grade, but they're not a corporal, right? So that teacher position was not always in there. So if there was an increase,
I'm just
it may have
interested
looked
in
like
your
a
staffing
yeah,
pattern.
right.
How long have you been running at 5 and 5?
It's been long enough that I can't remember when we added an employee.
I had somebody the same question. I just wanted to know that, but I was looking at your population here that you had. It's stayed pretty much the same that you've had there. I wanted to know if you were expecting from these counties, whether or not you're expecting more of a population increase or something.
It's not
of
a
that type.
population increase that is, I mean, that, you know, our population ebbs and tides, and, you know, it's not. I would love to too. Everybody wants to know, when's it going to increase, why is it going to increase? That's impossible to say. What I can say is what's required to be done for the ones that we have increases, and the amount of attention that each and every one of those young people needs while they're there. There's no comparison from a juvenile facility to an adult facility. We lose a lot of great employees to adult facilities because they have a hard time understanding why we have to document so many things and keep up with every minute situation that each specific child has, as opposed to in a correctional center facility. They just need to make sure that everybody's generally okay. We're having to do so much more. Each employee is having to do so much more, and at this point we have worn so many hats for so long. It's time to give our employees an opportunity to have the kind of training that they need and that they will benefit from somebody whose job it is to do that, and not somebody trying to have 3 hats on and book people in and answer the phone and open the doors and train you at the same time. They deserve the time and the effort that that's going to require, but it's going to take another person to do it. We can't wear as many hats as we've been wearing.
My personal feeling is definitely we should fund the field training officer, because training becomes more and more essential. We need to get on top of that even more. The sergeant position, I'm kind of up in the air on.
Do you have all the positions filled that was in the last year's budget?
We have had 2 gentlemen that just started today that for today fills all of our positions. We do have a young man who has been offered a position with the Murfreesboro Police Department that we know he's leaving, we just don't know when. We've had some initial interviews to fill his position. So when he leaves, until we fill that position, we will have an opening. But starting today, for about maybe 3 weeks, we're going to have full, all of our positions will be full, and then when he leaves, we'll have to start over. But that, you know, we have.
Is he a corporal or a
He is
sergeant?
a detention officer. He's a full-time detention officer.
Well, we've hashed and rehashed what's in front of us. Do we, any proposal amendments to it, or do we have a proposed motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve this budget as submitted minus the additional sergeant and pass on the budget.
You heard the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Okay. Questions? Well, one thing is ACA, you don't know what's going to happen with it.
Well, we've looked at it. It's going to require changes. It's changes that we can handle. It's something that we'd like to look into. Obviously, if I had to pick between the two positions, the corporal is is the one that I would most like to fight for if I need to fight for it.
Well, what I'm saying is you don't know what Washington's going to do.
That is the truth.
It could be worse. It could be better.
That's not the Affordable Care Act.
ACA, is it?
That's
this is-
accreditation from the Correctional Association.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
That's what I said. I'm sorry. And I know all over the county, we've got...
American Corrections.
Okay. I know that. All over the county, we've got to keep track of all this stuff. I even get one to this day, after I've retired, saying that, yes, I do have insurance and stuff like that, just to keep up with it, that we've had to put people in. Okay. All right. Any further questions? I'm glad I got that straightened out. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank the mayor, I guess. Okay. If not, let's call the roll on this one, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Your turn.
How you doing, sir?
Doing good.
In the interest of helping y'all miss the next round of storms, I'll do my report rather quickly. I don't want y'all in the storms. Just to let you know, we had a pretty active March. Kicked off with a highly successful LEPC on the 2nd. Had about 70 people in attendance. Our next one will be on October the 18th. In between that, we're going to do some things with our executive committee to get some more work out of them. Let's put it that way. So, upcoming events, the big event for the county is this weekend. It's Smyrna's Prepare-a-thon. It starts on the 31st. They're doing a couple of drills at schools. Although we're under spring break, they're doing it with some of the private schools. So they need to run their drills as well. And of course, you do the expo at the town center. That's on all day, not all day, from 9 to 2 on Saturday. A lot of vendors, a lot of folks will be out there, and my people will be out there as well. And of course, my big thing being out there is pushing Alert Rutherford, getting people to sign up. Also, of note, it's not on here, but I just want to put a plug in for the Smyrna Airport. They're doing a storm spotter class on the evening of the 6th. So just to let y'all know that. If anybody wants to participate, they can call out there or they can call my office directly. And there's a few other things on there. We had a few responses this month. The one that you're probably most interested in is the one that's not in there, and it'll be in the next report, which is the storms from last week. But a synopsis on that is simply that the biggest, of course, impact was to Christiana Elementary School. The SRO out there and a couple other people did a great job of keeping everybody safe. They had extensive roof damage, some lines down. Chief Farley was out there. He was on scene with his folks, and everybody pulled together and worked out really well. The only other major damage that night was on Lilo Creek Road. There was a home that just sustained some damage, and Red Cross is helping that family at this point. Everything else is the usual, limbs and trees down, that type of thing. So, subject to questions, that's my report.
I do have one question to you. I actually had a call about this. The 911 outage with AT&T earlier in the month. How quickly was there a huge gap there between that system not working for AT&T customers and when you guys were actually alerted to that before we could get communication out?
You know what? I'm trying to remember how it flowed, but I don't recall a long period of time because Rutherford County Emergency Communications District, the 911 folks at Steve Smith, they let us know pretty quickly.
Okay. I didn't know how long it went from where it needed to be to get to who it needed to get to on our side before.
And when we get it, our biggest thing is trying to inform as many people through as many different social media and other platforms as possible. I'm trying to remember what the gap was, and I'd be lying if I told you either way.
Okay. I just would be curious to know how long that was, because I had a couple calls about it.
Yes, sir.
One family was concerned they were impacted by it, trying to get some help, and that's why I said I would try to get an answer.
Okay. I know there's quite a bit of confusion at the point that it happened.
Yeah.
Because it was so specific, because it wasn't everyone. You had to be an AT&T wireless customer.
Right.
So That's where the confusion came in. Of course, I've seen a couple of news reports where they talked to some, and I don't know if it was, and I don't think it was any of the dispatchers in Rutherford County, but it was another county where even the dispatchers didn't know what the situation was. That, I don't think, was a situation in Rutherford County anywhere.
Right. If you don't mind finding that information out for me, just
Okay.
Thankfully they didn't end up needing that, but they were concerned about that, and I just told them I'd get them an answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. No big deal, sir. That's easy. Just my memory's not that great.
No, that's fine. Completely
It gets worse
understand.
every day. Nobody told me this was going to happen.
You got a long time yet.
So subject to any further questions, that's my report for the month.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the report as presented.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
All right, in my budget, I was told to bring about 8 copies. Anybody want a hard copy of it? Because you can probably write on that a lot easier than you can your iPad.
That is fire rescue.
I can't get mine.
Well, give me one of those back. I'm going to need one. Matter of fact, I've got notes on one of them. Y'all may already have that one. I apologize for
Anybody
that.
got the one with these minutes?
You do, sir. Here, give me that one back.
That's it. Bottom line.
It's not very many notes. What I do, and this is just to keep me straight more than anybody else, is I color code my stuff because it's real simple. The blue items you see at the top are, of course, the personnel costs that are sent down to us by finance, and the reason why I color code them blue because I don't have a lot of choices there. Anything that you see in red is where I'm asking for an increase, and anything where there's green, we're doing a decrease. Anything that's not color coded, there's no change. Bottom line up front is that we're going from 1.293 million to, 1.2 million to 853,831. So a little bit of a good story here. And that's because this past year, y'all allowed us to go back and do some what we call the next phase on communication. However, that won't be the case every year. Communications always cost, as I'm learning, and it always costs more. So. But I'll go through the red areas and try to give you an explanation on any of those, and please stop me and ask questions as you need to. First line, of course, is communications. It's going up by 20%. This is communications as far as our individual items that we use every day, the phones, iPads, and things of that nature. Y'all did allow me to increase personnel last year by 1. That's part of the cost, plus just typical increases in cost.
And 1 is 20% of your staff.
25% would be. So the next line is we had some increases on dues and memberships, and also an additional person made that go up for this year, and that's why that went from 1,200 to 2012. Okay, contracted services. I usually won't talk about green, but the reason that went down is because, remember, the Motorola maintenance agreement we pay every 2 years. So that's a big good one, let's put it that way. It went down by 95%. The next one went up by 140%, and what that is maintenance repair services. And Mr. Gurley knows this, and the rest of y'all don't, but up on Windshield Tower site, there's an old backup system that was wet cell batteries. It's not what you typically see in your car, but it's built on the same concept. It's a huge thing. It's got acid in it. It's safe, but we need to get it out of there because I don't want to become a hazmat scene one day. Because the longer we leave it there, the longer we'll have problems with it. So I put some money in the budget. We've looked around to see what it would cost to remove that. But that is the increase on that line right there.
And we're probably talking about a set of batteries that takes up half of this room.
It's one big one. So we need to get that out of there. We have backup generators, so we don't have need for it. And we have, geez, when was the last time you used it? Probably.
It's not usable.
It's not even usable yet.
Where will you go with it?
We're going to pay a hazmat company to come to mitigate it and get it out of there. We're not the ones going to touch it.
TK, on line 790, mentioned with the asterisk that there's a chance that could change that grant money. Could it go down lower, or could it go up, or what's the definition of subject to change? Do we know?
790. Oh, the DHS grant?
The DHS grant.
Because at this point, I don't know what next year is.
What they're going to give you, okay.
Yes, sir.
That's what that
Yeah,
was,
yes, sir.
okay.
That's pretty much what we've
Got it.
requested, but it can change.
Got it, okay.
That's just really pass-through money.
Right,
Yes,
that's
it's passed
that's
through
what I
money.
was trying to,
Yes.
I didn't know how much of that was.
And I'm also hearing other grants, like there's another grant that we rely on, immersion preparedness grants, which is about $70,000, just short of
Okay.
$70,000 a year.
Yeah.
That based on what the federal budget is, we may not realize that in coming years.
Okay.
I just don't know at this point.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Maintenance and repair 336, of course, some of our equipment's coming out of warranty, so we have to put a little money in there to take care of that. Rentals, a 2% increase on our tower leases, because some of those towers have a 5% automatic increase every year, every couple of years. We did increase our travel budget because I'm allowing one of my staff to go to APCO conferences next year, see how that works out, see if he comes back smarter. If not, he won't go back again. Some of the items have gone down. Electricity, I kind of, last year when I did my estimates on electricity, I kind of underdid it. If y'all remember that I had to come and do a budget correction to come in here and increase from another line my electricity. So I increased that back up to 7%, so I don't have to do those types of things. It's just, especially on the tower sites, if you have a hot year, you're going to have more electricity burnt. If you have a cooler year, you won't. Staff uniforms and footwear, not only do I have a staff increase, I also have a couple of volunteers I buy small items for that they help us out with, so I did increase that line item by $1,500. Down to 709, we need to replace a few older PCs in the EOC. And we are also purchasing for $3,000 Salamander software, which is a software that the fire chiefs came to me and said we need to start buying throughout the county, not just our fire chief, but he was the one that I depended on for an opinion. But this is a good accountability software for events. It's tracking not just people, but equipment and such as that. It'll cost us $3,000. Also tracking training to make sure that when people show up on the scene from different municipalities and districts, that they have the right training. So we're going to give this a go and see how his initial cost for my department will be $3,000. And we put a little bit more money in furniture and fixtures because we did have some warranties on our stuff, and these chairs are starting to break on me, so I had to put a little bit more money in there. We already discussed 790. So the bottom line is, like I said before, what I'm requesting today is $853,831 for this year, and that is a decrease, as I promised you, from the previous year.
I think it's a good budget. I'll make a motion to approve and pass this on to budget with
I'll second it.
recommendation.
Okay, motion is second. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Sir, I'll get you an answer on that question.
Thank you. All right, appreciate it.
Thank y'all. Have a good night.
Too.
Fire and rescue.
My monthly report last month is the top sheet. We had 9 structure fires, 4 vehicle fires, and 7 vegetation fires. We had run 201 EMS calls. We had 36 MVAs with injuries. We had 24 MVAs without injuries and 6 extrications. And this also includes the MVA runs that sort runs is included in that call volume. For a total call volume of 399 calls for since the last public safety. Year to date, we've had 19 structure fires, 12 wildfires, and then we've had a total of 534 EMS calls. We ran over 1,000 EMS calls last year. Our MVA with injuries is 98, without injuries is 77, and total extrications for the year is 9. And then our total call volume this year is 1,006 calls. We ran close to 4,000 last year, so it's continuing to go up. The next sheet is a total rundown for the volunteers and their runs, call volume. We had 23 structure fires countywide, 18 vehicle fires. That's up. For some reason, vehicle fires are up. 222 MVAs and 12 with extrications. Of course, 534 medical calls, and then for a total call volume of 1,213 calls. We're on track to run about 5,000 calls this year. The next sheet is just structures that incurred damage from structure fires that we report to the codes department that will need a permit. And then that's, let's see, the last page is our fire investigation report. It shows where we had those structure fires and what the cause was. And that concludes my report.
Fire investigations from the past. There were a couple that were still under investigation.
From last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, they.
You carry them on, or do you?
Well, we carry them to a point. We carry them to a point where there's arson and it becomes criminal, and we turn it over to CID with Sheriff's Office.
Heard the report. We'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the report.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I have a budget amendment that should be on there.
Yes.
I'm going to move $1,000 out of 711, which is furniture and fixtures, into building maintenance and repairs. We had to replace the water line out. We've had a lot of trouble with water lines for some reason. The water line out at Walt Hill was leaking, and we just went ahead and dug a whole new ditch and laid a new pipe to make sure that took care of the issue.
Who did that? I mean, the company?
We had somebody working on the heat and air unit, and he said he would do it, and it was about $400, which I thought was a pretty good price, just to dig the ditch and lay the pipe. Because I was figuring it would cost a whole lot more than that.
Heard the request.
Move to approve as submitted.
Second.
Any further questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
My spreadsheet and the balance scorecard I laid out there prior to the meeting. Balance scorecard just shows our measure of effectiveness on certain issues. And the ones in red where we're falling short, and the ones in green where we're doing good. My budget actually only increases about 5% this year. The first line item would be, or the second line item would be $60,820. I'm requesting an assistant fire chief. I have 2 captains, and they work 24-hour shifts, and then they work most of their off days too, doing other issues. I'd like to, with the state health department is requiring all these we have a lot of homes in Rutherford County that are healthcare facilities for veterans and other things. And the state fire marshal's office is not inspecting these anymore because the state health department has to pay for it. So we've been in the process of inspecting those and making sure they're compliant, which gives us an opportunity to realize where these locations are at. So that person will help me to do more inspections. We're involved in the code enforcement as far as planning, reviews and stuff of commercial businesses that come in Rutherford County. Also, this person will be in charge of the maintenance of all the trucks and speccing out the equipment in the trucks and overseeing that. The next line item is goes up. The increases is the salary supplements, which is $1,680. They're looking to increase that through the state law from $600 to $1,000. So that may increase. That'd be for 28 people. The next increase will be part-time personnel, went from 30,000 to 35,000. Overtime stayed the same. And then the next increase will be 189, other salaries and wages, and I'm requesting a training officer who will be over training. With the increase of the call volume for EMS, Director Nunley of EMS is going to allow us to increase our protocols and our abilities. So we're going to take all of our EMRs and turn them into EMTs. They'll be able to operate as EMTs and paramedics according to their license. And this training person will help to increase that capability by teaching emergency medical technician and then going to teaching advanced medical technician. They also have to have CUs every year to keep up their medical license. This person will be in charge of that. Also will be providing fire instruction to the volunteers and to our department. They will also, and once we get our EMRs at TMT level, I'd like to start an EMR program or first responder program throughout the county to offer this to the volunteers. This class is usually about a $300 class, and we can probably provide it for about $40, which will be just for their book. This will give them the capabilities when they do respond to wrecks that they can provide patient care until EMS or we arrive on the scene. But this will increase their capabilities also. And that's the increase for that. The next increase is everything else is the same down to line item 336, which is maintenance and repair for equipment. I increased that by $1,500 for the increased costs on our pumps and motors and stuff on our brush units and extrication pumps. It's a small, basic small equipment repair. We had to increase on disposal fees for garbage. We were getting that provided fairly inexpensive, but Republic has gone up on picking that up at the Barfield station, so it's increased. Take care of that. And then also with the increased call volume of the medical runs, I've increased our medical supplies from 5,000 to 10,000 to cover our gloves and any other medical supplies we will incur by increasing our protocols and our skills.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Line item 399, other contracted services on the volunteer fire department.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much been the same, looks like, for some time. If I remember right, there was a state law passed year before last about requiring volunteer fire departments to submit a report to the fire marshal's office.
State comptroller's office.
Comptroller's office. Are we looking at those reports, or?
That's not part of our lease agreement.
Not part of your lease agreement?
I mean, we have a contract with the county to provide response fire service, and then they're required to provide documentation every year showing that they've tested their pumps, they've tested their air packs, they've done their ladder testing, and keeping their equipment maintained, and also flowing hydrants.
But we're not requiring that report to be submitted as part of our documentation.
Now, they have to turn in a request for funds every year to the finance director requesting funds, and I think they have to turn in a bank statement and their expenditures and revenues.
But now, what I'm getting at is now that they're required by state law to submit this report to the comptroller's office, wouldn't it be good as part of a due process to require them to submit a copy of that as part of their contract?
Yeah, I didn't know about this requirement, so.
Yes, that went into effect year before last, I believe, and so that way.
What's the title of that report? Do you?
It's a financial report.
Oh,
They
a
have to
financial
sub-
report.
To the state,
They have to
just showing
submit.
what their
Yes.
revenues is as far as fundraising, what their
Right,
expenditures
that
are.
way we have a better idea of what they're spending money on and so on. It's just a department, so.
That-
It's available, it's not something extra that they've got to go out and do. It should be part, it seems to me that should be part of our due diligence. If
Well,
it's-
that law was created because of statewide of volunteer organizations
Misusing monies, right.
Well, we can add that out to our.
But our finance department has done periodic audits of the volunteers over time, haven't they?
No, sir. Not really.
Mind if,
Okay. We'll make a note of that and see if we can amend our agreement.
Of course, I got down to those, and then I went up on administrative equipment, which is 701, which is where we buy our turnouts. I went up from 45,000 to 50,000 on that, just a $5,000 increase. And then I went up on communication equipment, $10,000 to buy extra radios, as our equipment is starting to deteriorate, and we'll have to replace some of those. And also $80,000 down there on the 790 to start replacing some of the air packs that are starting to go out of date. Which is for a total of $3,711,652, which is like about a 5% increase in my calculation.
How many fire pumps have you got?
We've got 6 brush unit. Five brush units, and they've all got the like a Briggs & Stratton motor, so we have to do repair on them. And then also our extrication pumps are small engines, and we have to maintain those. But other than the ones I mentioned, everything else is pretty much the same.
Was that really your question, Mr. Reed? I mean,
Well, that one, plus, I know you got in here, this will complete replacement of the 1990 fire pumpers.
Pumpers, that's the.
Pumpers.
Trucks.
Trucks, that's trucks.
That's just replacing the 1990.
Yeah.
We still got the next.
How many more have you got out there that we're needing to?
We've got 11, well, 11 will replace, if you count equal,
Okay. How many do we have total right now?
that we've replaced.
Uh-huh.
I think we'll like 2 more next year. That'll complete the 1990s.
But I mean, how many total do we have in the county right now?
Oh, well, if you count, there's 22 that was bought in the past year. I mean, in the past years. It was, well, actually, it was more than that because we bought the municipalities.
Yeah.
There's 28 trucks bought, and we're just replacing the ones in the county. Because back then, they was bought because there wasn't a county fire department. Now if there's a county fire department, if we buy trucks, we don't have to provide the municipalities. Part of the state law is of a county fire department.
So we're pretty well vested.
And also, we had a fire last Monday out on Burks Hollow Road, which is out in the middle of nowhere. And the people had a fire at their stove and got up in the stovepipe. they put out with a garden hose and went to bed and thought everything was fine. Woke up the next morning and smoke was all the way to the floor, and they didn't have smoke detectors. And so we got there, and we had, because of the new tankers y'all bought, we had 6,000 gallons of water sitting there ready to pump. And so that has made a tremendous improvement on our capabilities of hauling and carrying water and being able to provide water on the scene. We had a structure fire Friday on 1 Mile Lane in Humble. We had 2 drop tanks set up. We had 6,000 gallons of water on the ground ready to be pumped, and 3 tankers sitting there ready to drop. So as far as increasing our capabilities of providing water where there's no hydrants, it's water is not an issue. And so I want to continue to thank you for that, because that's been a big increase. And then we were replacing Christiana's pumper next year. We'll be providing them with a 3,000 gallon tanker. So water is not going to be an issue like it has in the past. We've trained on that, set our drop tanks up, and I'm thinking as we can, what we'll be able to do is when we start the process of doing our ISO evaluation, water is 40% of your grade. And so we're going to do what we call a water shuttle, where we will be able to, right now we're a class 5. I believe we can go to a class 4, maybe a 3, but 4 for sure. And what that will do is that will provide everybody in the county that's in that area with a class 4 or 5, including whether they have a hydrant or not, because we have the capabilities to provide that water. So that's going to be a huge increase or a huge decrease in homeowners who don't have a hydrant or don't have access to a hydrant, because we bought these tanks.
We had a grant for a recruiting officer.
That plays out this year.
So he's still there.
He does the office. See, he does the office work as far as handling the paperwork, POs, the budget. He is a fire investigator, and also he responds to every structure fire that we have. Anytime, he's also an exempt employee, so he responds 24/7 if we have a structure fire. So it's just another fire hand on the ground.
And I know line item 163, it says educational assistance. Expound on that a little bit. Tell what do these educational assistants do?
163?
Yeah. 54320.
Well, that's just basically in the budget where they put the recruitment retention coordinator.
Oh, that's him.
Just, yeah, that's just where the finance put that position.
So what are you going to do with this person next year? You're going to keep him on? You're planning on it?
Plan on it, because I mean, basically he does 3 jobs. He does, like I say, I don't have to have a secretary because of that. He handles all the budget and paperwork and works with finance on all of our PO requests and documentation and budget. And then he responds to all structure fires, and then he also does all fire investigations. So he's really actually providing 3 jobs for the price of 1.
We've heard fire and rescue's request.
Line 452, utility, says electric and water for 8 stations.
Yeah,
Does that come out of your budget?
Yeah.
The volunteers deals come out of your budget?
No, I have 8 stations.
You have 8
I
stations?
have, see, I had, Rockville had 2 stations, we took them over. Southeast had 2 stations, we took them over. On Manchester Highway and Elam Road. Rockville Road and right there at Rock Springs Road is Rockville's 2nd station. I got Station 2 on Oak Salem, or Station 56 now. Barfield Station, Walt Hill Station, and then Walt Hill had 3 stations. We cut that down to 2. So we have one over in Leanna.
The one in Leanna is still active?
We have trucks over there.
People?
Yeah. 1 or 2. And all that, most of that pays for where there is for the water and electric. And we have to keep the buildings heated. You don't have to cool them, but you have to keep them heated in the wintertime. Keep them for you.
Looks like, Larry, we're not nearly spending all of our budget there, which is a good thing. you spent half of it for, 16,000 for half of the year.
What line did you say it was?
452.
452. Yeah, that's what, that's utilities, gas, electric, water. I'll tell you what, we can cut that to 40,000. I hadn't caught that.
You can leave me something to cut later.
Yeah, I'll let Larry cut that later. That among other things, I'm sure.
Maybe one or two more.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the budget request and send it on to the Budget Committee.
I second that.
A motion is second. Further questions? Call the roll. No. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
That's a good time.
Thank you.
Ambulance. None. I guess let's start off with public safety, March 2017, a report.
Okay. We made 2,675 calls last month. Average response time 7.5 minutes. We had 55 DOAs for the month, and 16 autopsies that were ordered. We billed $1,268,385 and collected $513,258. That puts our year-to-date collections at $5,042,210 and projects $7,563,313 for the year. Our percent of collections is 72%. Insurance write-offs for $562,463 for the month, and collection agency write-offs for $173,837. The table at the bottom of the first page is our ambulances. We drove a total of 47,926 miles. We had a maintenance cost of $6,698 and a fuel cost of $12,942. Gives us operating costs of $19,640, which averages 41 cents per mile. Just might point out to you that we have 3 ambulances with over 200,000 miles and 3 more that are probably going to be over 200,000 by July. This is a sort of a different report than you're used to getting, and the reason is because we have a new CAD system that we have implemented for, this is the second month. And our OIT department is probably going to come up with a way of us being able to track some of the stuff that we used to report to you, but currently we can't give all of that information to you. One of the things we can't give you now is a total of our out-of-zone calls, because as this new CAD system doesn't recognize our zones, it dispatches the ambulances, whichever ambulance is closest. So in other words, Rutherford County is just one big zone, and whichever ambulance is closest to the incident is the one that gets dispatched. So, but we'll come up with some way of being able to track those.
I don't really think it matters a whole lot whether we have that information as on a commission district basis or not. What really matters is what we're providing on the average to the citizens. So I'm not too worried about it.
Surprisingly enough, we can track the commissioners' districts, but we can't track the zones.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it really, like I said, the overall number that really counts.
I agree with you.
And the average response time is down.
Down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what counts.
But first time in a while, that's good.
We had 7 different in-services and training. Also our paramedic tactical team, so I spent quite a bit of time doing stuff this month. Our REACT team, which does the medical coverage and community relations, had 11 different things listed there that they've been doing. And our SORT team has 3 different trainings that were listed. The following page is the Commissioner's District, but I want you to pay attention to that last number. We were able to track a lot of them, but there was 460 of them that we couldn't track. So. And the rest of those reports we can't do anymore, but I suspect that we'll be able to do them sometime in the near future. We have one note that was written to us on the bill when the person paid the bill that we included there. There was also a letter from the Sheriff's Department that I kind of expected to be in the report, but we'll make sure it's in next month's report. They had a little fire over at the Sheriff's Office, and we ended up transporting 3 of the employees over there for smoke inhalation, and we got a really nice letter from them. And I'll make sure that's in the report next month.
Questions on the report? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve this report.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Let's do the budget amendment.
We have a budget amendment. I don't have a copy of that, but I think I can recall. We need to transfer.
Look on there.
No, we're good. I think we need to transfer, I believe it's $100,000 from paraprofessional line item into our part-time line item. We kind of got all skewed about with a number of vacancies this year. We still have a healthy balance in that paraprofessionals account, and we'll have one to turn in at the end of the year, but we do need to put some more money in our part-time account.
Heard the request. It's within his budget.
Make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Motion is second. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Ready for the budget?
Yeah, I guess the worksheet.
Y'all need to get-
Debbie's going to give you a whole lot of information. By the way, this is Debbie Wright. I think she's been here before.
It'll be in there, I think. I think there's enough in there for all of them.
You need all those, Becky?
I think she'll have one.
Before we start, I might just preface this by saying that this budget, as I just presented it to you, is an increase of 29% over last year's budget. It's been presented to the mayor and the finance director. And I've had discussions with the mayor about it since then too. We don't expect that this is going to stand up because we've addressed quite a few issues, and to be honest with you, we may have addressed some of the same issues twice. So there's going to be some things in here that will probably be taken out somewhere along the way. One of the things, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, we included money to enlarge our MTSU station in order to put 2 ambulances at that station. And besides being able to do that, that would require an addition of 7 new positions. Knowing how we do and the length of time it takes to get things constructed, it probably would not, it's going to push us to get it done by the end of the year, so we probably don't really need those people in the budget until the end of the year, or maybe close to the end of the year. So we can make some of those kind of adjustments somewhere along the line. One of the things I think that you have in front of you looks like this, and it is the items in the budget that have either increases or decreases. And that may be the best way to do this, because I think that those are probably the things that you're going to be most interested in.
It's all right.
Let me just start at the top and go down, Commissioner.
Yeah. Okay, that would be fine.
The supervisor payroll is an increase of $4,744, and that just accounts for step increases. We generally don't do anything other than step increases when we submit our budget, and whatever the county commission decides to do in the way of increases would be in addition to that. That's something for you all to decide. Same for the accountant's payroll, $2,123 increase, and that is due strictly to step increases in the pay plan. The paraprofessional payroll is an increase of almost $1 million, $916,811. It includes step increases. It also includes adding 6 paramedic float personnel, and it includes 7 paramedics to staff the MTSU station. Dispatcher's payroll includes step increases as well as adding 6 new dispatchers. Our maintenance personnel is only one person, but $578, and that's due to step increase. Our part-time personnel, we're requesting a $100,000 increase due to significant turnover rate. But I want to tell you, as I've told the mayor, that increase is going to be tied to some of these other personnel too.
What you can hire.
Right, so, it's going to be kind of an either or in these situations, so I don't think you'll see both of them. The longevity pay is an increase by $1,125, and that's just something that's based on $25 per year for a year of service that the county pays the employees in the month of November. The overtime pay is increased to $175,000. And again, that is kind of tied to some of these personnel additions and so forth, so we can come to some kind of an agreement on that, I think. In-service training is increased by $12,474, and that increase is due to more certifications that are required by the state for medical personnel. Maintenance and repair service for buildings is decreased $3,500, and the reason for that was that we included a new roof for Smyrna Station last year, and we're not planning on replacing the roof this year. Medical and dental services, that actually is the entire amount of that line item is the salary that we pay our medical director, who is Dr. Russ Galloway, an emergency physician with Middle Tennessee Medical Center, Rutherford, St. Thomas Rutherford. And we've asked to increase his salary at 3% by 3%. 3% is roughly one cell movement in the county's pay plan. So that's where we came up with the 3%. The postal charges is a decrease of $300. We don't use nearly as much postage since we have a billing service that does all of that for us now, so we've been actually decreasing that for quite a while. Other contracted services, that is where we pay the billing company. We pay them on a percentage for what they collect for us. If they collect more money, then we pay them more money. And they have been collecting more money, and additionally, we're making a lot more calls. So we anticipate that that's going to go up some, and that's what the $49,018 represents there. That's also where we pay the licenses for our ambulances that we pay the state of Tennessee every year. Data processing supplies is an increase of $2,974. We're requesting additional monitors and KVM switches for the new CAD system. You're going to see several things that relate to that CAD system, and I might just explain something to you. A couple of years ago, 911 made a grant to the county to upgrade its communication system. I believe, I don't remember exactly how much it was, but the thought process behind the 911 board giving that grant to the county was to upgrade the sheriff's department and the ambulance service. Keep in mind, this was a couple of years ago. It was when Sheriff Arnold was still there. But by the time the sheriff's department got through with it, there was no money left for us. So the county came back, I believe, 2 years ago, and put some money in our account to be able to upgrade ours. But we kind of have been piecemealing ours together, and so we didn't have everything in the main budget. And so what we're finding out is the further along we get along, is every once in a while we're going to hit something like this and realize that we didn't budget for it. So that's what that's about. And there's some more stuff in there too. Drugs and medical supplies, an increase of $35,000. We don't have a whole lot of control over that because even though we bid it out once a year, occasionally the vendors that we buy from send the mayor a notice that essentially says the cost of drugs have gone up and so forth, and that's what it's going to be. They're willing to back out of their contract, but the bad thing about it is that we don't really want them to back out of the contract because some of these drugs are really hard to get. For instance, right now, the IV solution, normal saline, is extremely difficult to get, but we have a good supply of it, so we're sitting good on it, even though a lot of other medical facilities are scratching around trying to find what they can find. So that's just due strictly to the increased cost of drugs and our increased use of them because of the increased number of calls we're making. This next one is something I need to explain to you. The instructional supplies and materials, we're asking for an increase there of $8,950. And primarily, that is because we started teaching these classes that we normally teach for our personnel and for the fire department personnel. There's a market for that. And so what we've decided to do is to try to capitalize a little bit on that market and open those classes up to personnel from other agencies. And they're willing to pay for those, and so we're going to start charging for them. We're probably going to need about that much money for us to get kind of a stockpile of materials and so forth. We'll recoup that money, but I don't know what to tell you how much that's going to be. I can tell you that we taught one class as an experiment just to see how it was going to work, and we were able to profit almost $1,000 on that one class, and that was a very small class. Some of these things are more expensive than others, and we feel like we're going to probably bring in maybe $50,000 a year in addition to income.
But that was the first class.
That was the first one we've ever opened up for others. Okay. We worked through the trustee's office and got a PayPal account, and they can pay through PayPal and those kind of things.
What types of classes are you thinking about offering?
We teach CPR, we teach advanced cardiac life support.
Heart codes to ACLS, BLS.
Yeah, we teach ventilator classes. There's a lot of classes that we teach.
You opened that to all the county agencies and schools and all this.
It's always been open for agencies within Rutherford County, but we're opening it up to other counties. Office supplies is an increase of $7,150, and that's just to replace several office chairs and other things such as that. Uniforms, we're asking for a $70,000 increase. That's primarily due to increased turnover and more PRN people on the payroll. Our part-time people are what we call PRN, which means that they don't have a set schedule that they work. If we have an opening and they are able to cover that shift, then they can work it and get paid for it. PRN is the medical symbol for as needed. So it's not like we have PRN people that are working 32 hours a week or something like that. We require them to work at least one shift per month. That's the minimum. And most of them do more than that. Other supplies and materials is to purchase new dispatch chairs. Those dispatch chairs are high dollar. They're supposed to be ergonomically correct and all these things, and it's time to replace them. In the service staff development, this is where we offer scholarships. We solicit and gain money from various people throughout the community for the purpose of that. We've had individuals donate to that account. St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital typically donates about $5,000 a year. Stonecrest Hospital donates $5,000 a year. And we solicit and take donations from anybody we can get. But we treat that just the way we would any other expense. And we feel like that we're going to be offering more scholarships this year than in the past, because that's due to some of the recruiting efforts that we've initiated to try to gain personnel. Building improvements, increase of a little over $500,000, $586,000 to replace the flooring at the MTSU station and to build an addition to that station, which we anticipate will cost about $200,000. And then to build an addition to the sort station. When the sort station was built, it was built with the idea that it would be expanded in the back because it didn't include housing quarters for the people who work there. So it's been in place now, I don't know, Joe, how long, 12, 16? Probably at least 12 years, 15 years, something like that. And they still don't have a place to stay. They have managed to cobble quarters out of what we originally intended to be office spaces up there. But at some point, we probably need to fix that.
That addition to the MTSU station, is that going to have new bays in it or something?
Well, it's going to enlarge the bays. There's 2 bays there already, and we would like to make the bays 2 deep so that we can respond to ambulances out of there.
But you would need those 7 to help staff.
Mm-hmm.
That's all ties in together.
It would be adding an additional ambulance every shift.
Right. Okay. But there's some also flexibility there that you were talking about. If we had to move something,
right,
we could do that.
You know, I seriously doubt that we would be able to put those people on in the next fiscal year, because by the time we got the thing built and by the time we got people recruited and trained, I just...
2018 already or something, right?
The communication equipment, originally 911 felt like that. Joe might be able to tell this better than I can, but when we did this system, it felt like that the Sheriff's Department had a core, which is the controller of the whole thing. Is that not correct? And 911 had one. They're redundant. And when we brought our CAD on, we were going through the MTS, the 911 system. We were using their core, and we still are. But Steve Smith, who's the director of the 911 service, called me and told me that he felt like that probably we ought to have a core of our own. It would just provide an additional redundancy.
If you'd like, I can elaborate on that just a
Okay,
little
good.
bit.
Yeah,
It's the Central Electronics Bank for the consoles. They're not going to be buying brand new consoles. They have the consoles, the displays and all that. But what they don't have, what they were lacking, everything is running back on fiber. to 911 over on Fortress. Well, if you get a fiber cut, which you've gotten a fiber cut once or twice, they're dead in the water. Plus, it doesn't allow them to control everything that's on that tower at the EMS. So it was a quick fix, but it shouldn't be a long-term fix. So I think he's asked it to come back and at the core or Central Electronics Bank for that. Where basically, if 911 dies or whatever, you can back up each other, but you're not dead in the water. You don't have to rely on a piece of fiber, somebody construction accident or something happening, and then not EMS dispatch be dead. And,
We had one of those this year, as Joe mentioned,
and I kind of brought that up in the beginning a couple of years ago, but you know, it was the way to go with the money at the time.
there's also a possibility that, you know, and when we're talking about ways of reduction to this budget, there's a possibility we could get 911 to pay for that. And I think they probably would. The mayor would have to make the request, but I think they probably would do that. Our dispatch, if you remember earlier, I said we were requesting some new dispatchers. They were requesting a new station. We have a station in place over there that we currently use to train dispatchers, but we would need the equipment to turn that into a working station. And again, I do think that 911 would probably pay for that equipment, but that's what that figure is. And it's, remember how much that was?
Which one, 709? Yeah.
Yeah. That was 708. So I think there's a possibility that we could probably get 911 to pay for that particular, all of that.
The entire increase?
Which part are you wanting to know how much? The console?
Yeah.
About 60,000.
And that, Debbie was just reminding me that the cost to do that console is $60,000. And I'm sure they'll pay for that. On the data processing equipment, one of the things that we found, we use Panasonic Toughbook laptops in our ambulances to do our patient reporting form and lots of other things. And this new CAD system is so extensive, it has, essentially, it doesn't completely take away all the radio traffic, but it takes away probably 90% of the radio traffic. The medics are still paged out. When they get in the ambulance, the mobile data terminal brings up where the call is. It shows them a map showing them, utilizing GIS information to show them how to get there, step by step. When they leave, they push a button that notifies dispatch that they're en route. When they get there, they push another button, tells them they're there. So a lot of that radio traffic is going to be gone. But what we found out when we started this is that the laptops are having to run too many things at once. And so one of the things that we found out that the city of Murfreesboro was doing is that they're using iPad Pro, similar to this, and using them to run the CAD system. And if we did that, then we could move the computers to the back because they're primarily patient information anyway. And the medic back there would be taking care of that. So the cost, the iPad Pros and the mounting hardware for the vehicle are almost $1,000 a piece. OIT is currently getting us a bid on that. And we think that probably going to cost a total of about $17,300. In motor vehicles, we're asking for a couple of new things in addition to our regular expense in those, that line item, which is to replace ambulances and to sometimes remount ambulances. We're asking to replace 2 ambulances this year and also to remount 2 or 3 ambulances. But the thing that has driven that up significantly is we're requesting a new van for administration. We currently have a van that we use, and it's pretty much worn out. The Honor Guard also uses that van, but they're not primarily who uses it. Primarily, the administration uses it. And we're also requesting to replace the heavy rescue truck that we have at SORT. Adam is here, and he'd be glad to speak to you if you want to ask him questions about it. That truck is essentially the same truck as the fire trucks. The difference in it is that the configuration of the storage cabinets and those things are different, and obviously we don't fight fires, so the configuration is different. The truck that we currently have is getting a lot of miles on it. It's gotten to the point of where it requires more maintenance than it used to require. And one of the things that we think about is when that truck is down for maintenance, they're essentially responding in just a pickup truck. And that's probably not the best way. If this were allowed and we somehow can replace that truck, the old truck wouldn't go away. It would just become a backup truck. We're not thinking about staffing it, but we would have it there and available if it was needed.
Adam, is that the truck that also can refill tanks and things of this type?
Yes.
Office equipment is a decrease of $6,680 because last year we replaced one of our copiers, but SORT actually needs a copier. They don't need as fancy a copier as we use over in our administrative building, but they do need a copier. And so it would actually end up being a decrease of $6,680 if we allowed $3,320 to stay in there for their copier. Health equipment primarily is our monitors. We're asking to increase that by $62,000 to add 2 additional monitors for the 2 new trucks, and power stretchers for both the new trucks and their remounts. We're on a kind of a mission, Commissioner Schaefer, to replace those power stretchers as we go, and those things are terribly expensive, but they save people's backs in the long run. And the last thing there is other equipment. It's actually a decrease of $3,300. The only expense we foresee in that line item would be to replace our projector at the Salem Road Training Room. We have an overhead projector much like the one that's in this room, I think. And the one that we have in there is kind of outdated and old and works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. So. That's it, Commissioner Schaefer.
That's all? That's all?
Well, we can ask number one, if you had everything you wanted, where do you plan on getting the money from?
I want to, our fund balance is not that healthy. We are doing some things.
Move this fund balance down into a
negative,
an area that's too thin for us to really do. And be comfortable.
I do have a question.
Okay.
I think Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and Vernon all have some form of rescue, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work with EMS?
We will help them if they call for us to help them, and they do. The history behind these rescue operations was many years ago, as Joe can tell you, it was all done by rescue squads. Yeah. And the rescue squads eventually had difficulties and backed out of doing it. And so it wasn't something that we necessarily wanted to do. It was just something that was needed, and we seemed like the most likely people to do it. And so that's when we started our SORT team. And as it progressed and grew and did all the things that it does, other agencies took notice and started doing similar things because there's some advantages to doing that.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is how much duplication do we have in this county when you bring the cities in? Because they have EMTs also, right? And
but they can't transport. And they can't, there's not one other agency in this county. I want you to understand, we're positive behind the first responder agencies. We want them there because they show up lots of times before we do, and they do good work before we get there. But they don't transport, and none of them can operate except operate through us by state law. And so we have a very good relationship with all of them. We've got a tremendous relationship with the Rutherford County Fire Department. That's probably, between that one and Laverne, that's probably the very best one. I can't say that for sure.
That's Smyrna calling.
It was actually an alarm. In answer to your question to TK, I don't want to step on TK's toes. The FCC is actually investigating that.
Okay.
I think the outage was about 2 hours, if I'm not mistaken, but it affected 12,000 calls.
Yeah, and that was part of where it came from. I had shared that I had gotten a call about that. They were pretty concerned, so I wanted to get some more background.
There's a current investigation going on about it, and of course, we pay close attention to it in 911, simply because we don't want that to happen, obviously. It was an AT&T issue. It was not anything local. And we did everything we could do to bypass it by notification and using the Everbridge program, as a matter of fact.
Back to my question about...
I was trying to avoid answering that.
No, it's just, but when EMS arrives, and if it's a medical emergency, they take over from them if any of the cities were there first. I just want to bring that out, though.
And we work very closely with them, and that's where I was going with that a while ago. I have a little bit of concern in Smyrna right now because Joe Johnson has been very easy to work with. He has a first responder unit at the airport, but I understand Joe's leaving, and I'm not sure what that's going to put the status of their first responder program. Laverne's program is great. Chris Clark's down there. He's over the program. He's a former, he was former supervisor at our source program. So we don't have any issue with them. Murfreesboro works well. Larry mentioned to you a minute ago in his budget about the person that oversaw all the training and so forth, and I very much support that because whoever that person is has got to be a really good liaison with us because they utilize our protocols, and we have to make sure that stands up that way.
Well, I thought it was just worth bringing you saying so everybody and people that listen when they say, the last time I think we heard something like a 29% budget increase. Well, I thought that person's no longer here. No, but when you get that, people wonder and all this. Okay.
We've got to, once again, remember that we've dealt with some of the issues of not having adequate pay and so on. The ambulance service has really taken a beating in terms of the personnel. I don't know how many of the rest of you members of the committee have talked to people in the business, the ones who are doing the work out there, but the long hours and the pay and everything has definitely had its impact on the department in the last 12 to 15 months. So we've got to get back on track, and I see positive things right there, and that's going to take money. And the other thing I asked for several months ago, and you've got it in your 5-year capital plan, and you're starting on it this year, is increasing facilities because we're growing. Because you're right, you serve the whole county, and not just a portion of the county, not just the unincorporated area. So we've got to get on a building plan, wherever that money's coming from. And you've got a plan here, so we've got to stay on track on it. It'll be great if 911 will fund some of these communications things. This should have been in there and funded 2 years ago, but it wasn't. But now's the time. Before we have the AT&T thing, I was at a TACAN conference that morning where AT&T, TACAN is the state's radio communication system. They have periodic meetings. and I'm trying to stay a little bit up to date on some of that stuff. And AT&T was there and gave a presentation. AT&T is wanting to be the provider for FirstNet, which is the broadband initiative nationwide. And I thought it kind of ironic that they came and they gave a presentation about how robust their system was that morning at 10 o'clock that morning, and then at 6 o'clock that night I was listening on the news about an AT&T 911 outage. But that being said, it had nothing to do with anything we do in Rutherford County. It's strictly an AT&T issue. And yes, we can let everybody know, but the media was already letting everybody know. And but yeah, along with what Commissioner Schaefer's talking about, I think we really need to look at, 5 years ago we didn't have fire rescue department. I think we really need to look at, over the next year, I want to see the capabilities of SORT preserved. It's a great asset. And if we have a major issue, we're going to need those skills. But maybe we need to take a little bit of time over the next 6 to 12 months and look at how best to organize those rescue operations in terms of where it best fits and how best, like you said, EMS is always going to be the transport provider. EMS is always going to be the umbrella for medical, dictate how we operate a medical response in Rutherford County, and that includes all of the entities. But maybe we need to step back a little bit on the and so on. But
I have to say that the members of the fire department are very receptive to training. Last week we taught an extrication class. We had several members of the fire department there. And we're happy to provide and share our expertise in whatever we have. We do have the only heavy rescue truck around. And so, anything involving tractor and trailers and those kind of things, we have to be responding to that. Our SORT team actually covers an area for the fire department. The fire department has got their first responder program kind of divided out into zones, and there's a zone. Adam have to help me. It goes almost to Smyrna. Is that correct, Adam?
Yes, sir. It covers a lot of in the Smyrna and Woodlawn in that direction.
But we actually do first responder work in there for them. And anytime that any of them need help, the agencies in Rutherford County work well together. When you had that fire out on Cedar Grove Road, they were all out there.
Well, we've listened to what the EMS has to say, what they're looking for in the future. But at the moment, we're dealing with the present. I guess that's a decent way to put it. And what's the wishes of the committee?
Oh, just based on what Director Dunley shared, I would think that we need to give strong consideration to removing those 7 paramedics for the MTSU side, as well as the expansion and the addition. I'm not sure if there's much merit there yet in funding that, if we're not even sure if that's going to be able to be done before 2018, at least to try to save some money from this. I think your group's done a good job presenting the needs and what your department is going to be needing, but I'm not sure we need to do that right now if it's not something that's going to get done before 2018.
Commissioner Turner, are you I'm with you on removing the paramedics, but are you talking about removing the addition to the MTSU?
Well, that's what I think. Didn't you say the addition would require the 7, or so why would we?
But not until 2018. It's going to take at least a year. If we fund this to start July 1 of 2017, it's going to take that. What he's saying is it's going to take that year to get that station built before we'll need to manage.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I got you. Yeah, so you can do the building and then okay, I got it. Yeah,
we're 2 years out.
Gotcha.
What is the addition to the SORT building?
The addition to the SORT building would just be to build onto the back of the sort building to allow the personnel to have sleeping quarters.
If you haven't been over there, ask
Yeah,
Adam for a tour and see how packed it is.
Yeah, that's what
I know exactly, that's
Right.
what, I've been in there, I know.
I think it'd be a good idea sometime just for y'all to have an idea of what all is over there and what capabilities are. If y'all want to ever have a meeting over there, we got.
That's why you
Can
was
we
in
go
that truck.
directly to you, Adam, to
Yes, sir.
do that? Because I would like to, I haven't been over there in quite a while, and I would like to go.
You ever seen Batman?
I have.
That's what it is,
That's
like
it.
going in that building.
We're getting, I don't need a tour. And then how confident are we about 911 funding some of these that we could move? I mean, I know, I don't want to put you on the spot with that, but, I mean, if that's something.
You got 2 votes right here. What do you think,
But
Mike?
I think they'll seriously consider it. There are some financial maneuvering they have to do to be sure they don't have a decrease in total assets and stuff, or they'll get a comptroller's audit of deficiency. So there's some, they have to be sure of how much they do of this kind of stuff. I haven't been down there at their meetings in a while, but I know they're concerned about being sure they meet every requirement as far as how they spend those dollars.
All of this stuff is eligible.
Right.
I'm confident of that.
I just always want to be careful that we're not just always punting the budget saying, hey, we're going to pass this, but then you guys find the cuts. You know, I want to be responsible for that too, so they're not being put, you know, in a position like that when it's something that we could recommend. They're basically taking our recommendations as a public safety committee, and I would just want to make sure that we're honoring our responsibility at the same time.
If EMS can't dispatch because of a fiber cut,
yeah,
that is on
got a big
us.
right.
You
That's
can't
right.
make
Yeah,
any
that's right.
deal for that.
No, that's right.
They dispatch fire too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exact. Yeah, you can't just. We're responsible for everything when it comes to that, good and bad.
So, Brad, if I'm looking at it right, are you talking about removing the line item 133 where it says requesting to add 13 full-time paramedics?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'm talking about the 7 paramedics at MTSU, removing that, but allowing the building procedure to go ahead.
Where's that line item?
It's half of that. It counts as the 13, but it's removing those 7, leaving the 6,
I
and
just
then
want to
allowing.
make sure
Yes, sir.
we are adding
Those 6, yeah, the
paramedics.
6 floating. I just wanted to remove the 7 personnel for MTSU.
So we need to redo that, okay. Because I mean, I'm for that we need to add paramedics and to give them their step increases too. So. And that would also keep the 6-time dispatchers, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, keep those.
Do you have any paramedic openings now?
One.
Just one.
And if we can get one more, we'll be able to staff that extra unit at Burton Street, and that's what we're right now.
How much would this impact your overtime as well? If with the 6 additional, how much would it
Those
cut
6
into?
officials, I think that you probably could strike the increase in overtime.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was asking about that.
Right. That looks good.
But those sick for floating personnel probably have some impact on both part-time and overtime. You guys don't have to, in particular, identify every single one of those. We're probably going to work on some more of those once we can sort of get some detailed information.
To me, this is the first one of the 4 big ones we have.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, we've got the school boards coming sometime.
Right.
And, you know, and what we've already approved there, you got to look at the sheriff coming. Plus, we've got a building sitting right down here on Maple Street. And we don't know how much we're going to have to take out of property tax or whatever to fund the payment of that, because this is the first time we've gotten into the litigation fees that's coming in to see how much it's actually going to help. So we got an awful lot of, you know, there's a lot of openings in our budget at this early stage in the process is what.
That's true, but you know, we, over the last few years, we funded Board of Education, never turned them down. We've been funding the Sheriff's Department recently with 19 new ones. I think the EMS, who has every person's life in their hands, needs to step up now, I mean, and take care of them.
I look at it, also, I add to it, we got a state of Tennessee that has done very little since I've been up here, I think, to help us. To give us means of how we can raise funds, if they give us one. And they did help on the litigation tax with things, deal with that. But they shut down everything else except property tax. That's all we got. And they've even tried to put a thing on the property tax. They can't go up more than 12 and 25%. They've tried or something like that at different times.
Yeah.
And that really hurts us. And that's what we have to look at. So I'm just throwing that out. I think there's got to be, the mayor's going to have a lot of work to do on this, no matter what we do. And I think what's been pointed out has been very good. And I'm not the needs for EMS, I'm not downgrading that at all, because I was up here when we did everything we could just to get a used truck, ambulance and stuff like this over time. So, and we finally started funding to get ambulances and all. I think they presented a lot of good things to us.
Is the heavy rescue apparatus truck, is it about on its last leg?
No, no.
That item right there, I mean, we're looking at an increase there of 623,000 right there. If we could hold a little while on that.
I think we're gonna do whatever we need to do.
I can understand the addition to the building out there. Maybe that might be something we might have to think, I'm gonna look at. But I think if we're okay there, we'll just, hold on that now.
I'd like to see us send it, pass it and send it on the budget committee and let the mayor, like I said, there's some things I think duplicate's gonna reduce another 250,000 probably, that we don't know the answers to right now, but that'll work out. But I'd like to remove those 7 positions that we're probably not gonna need till the 2018 budget next year, as well as the heavy rescue vehicle this year, and send this on, because I don't really see a whole lot of anything else in here that's not immediate needs.
I would agree with both of those. Is that a motion, Commissioner Gurley?
It wasn't, but I can make it one.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we send this budget on to the budget committee as presented, minus the 7 additional paramedics for the MTSU edition, and minus the heavy rescue apparatus.
I'll second that.
So what are we saying there, roughly 700,000 without the sort truck and 650,000?
Well, the sort truck is only 460. Something like that. It's not the whole piece there.
No, I was thinking of it as being 500. I was thinking that 7 people is.
I was thinking the same about it. 750 or
7 people being.
Well, you don't have to put the exact numbers in this. You just say those 2 items and we'll figure out what the numbers are that
that's fine.
attached to that.
I think even the rough goal that Commissioner Gurley said, you could get probably close to $1 million on those with everything together. That could be full.
Repeat it?
Sure.
Thanks.
Approve the budget deleting the 7 employees for the MTSU station and the heavy rescue truck, and forward this to the budget committee.
Let's call a roll.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
You're gonna be no.
Okay.
There's gonna be more. There's gonna be a lot more looking at it, I think. Can I get more chances? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
But I think it was great to get this out in the open. I think that's something big we did tonight, and we're going to be thinking about it. Put pressure on the other areas. Oh, Mike, one thing. Next month, we had this. This is the third or fourth year since we've had the collection agency help.
You're talking about the billing act?
Yeah, the billing agent. Yeah.
It's renewable.
Could you just bring us the next time the yearly collection each year so far, the totals is what I'm looking at, so we can see how it's going. Now, I know we've had more calls.
Yeah.
And maybe give it in relationship to the amount of calls we had during that year, just to see how we're looking. I appreciate it. Thank you. Last but not least.
I know. My feelings were hurt.
Talk to Vicky. Talk to Vicky.
That's okay.
It's not me.
Oh, it took me under the bus. I know. Jeff did. That was from Jeff.
Okay. Good evening.
Good night.
Something. Good tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
You can have coffee.
Okay. Where do you want to start? What's the best thing? Just to go through the report?
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Part of the report will have our statistics as well as our budgets. The other two parts of here is asking for permission to apply for 2 grants. One of the grants is... Which one do you want me to go with?
Just pick one.
All right. So the grant part, requesting approval to submit for a grant from the Bureau of Justice Administration. So it's an 80-20 match. This is one that we applied for. It's the same, asking for the same thing that we did from SAMHSA. The match for the county is an in-kind from what we pay our personnel. So there's not really going to be an added expense. It's the feeling of both myself and MTSU that we will actually pick, that we'll get one of these grants, hopeful. It's just a matter of how many times we can keep applying for it. Sorry.
No, it's all right, Trey. We got it now.
We're trying to break the code.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Number 3?
Number
3? I guess, whatever on the
3
report.
from the bottom, I think.
That one right there. There you go.
Right through. Chris.
I was trying to save your eyes from the statistics.
Yeah. You mentioned county dollars. Okay. From the Veterans Court. But on here, it's hard to tell where it was at. And it's not. So you heard the request. This one, it says there's no matching county dollars on the bottom one?
On the third.
Third one.
Yes.
$375,000 for 2 years on the federal, right?
Yes. $300,000 from the federal government and $75,000
okay.
From county in-kind. So.
You found? Yeah. What page is it on?
Third from the bottom.
The third from the bottom.
Okay.
Then the third bullet point.
Yeah, third one. All right. We can read it, we can see what it is. And you've heard your request. And we're just applying for it tonight.
Make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Second.
Motion is second, and it would come back after, if it is approved, it would come back for signatures and all that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Further questions? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? What's the next one?
The last one is to apply for the Tennessee Highway Safety Office Administration. We are seeking to add a therapist to the Veterans Court and using this money. There is no match whatsoever.
Make a motion to approve that request as presented also.
Second page.
Motion is second. Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, now I'll kill your eyes and we'll go to the stats. If you want to look at them, or we can go through them, but primarily you'll see in the drug court for the month of February, we had a total of 38 participants in drug court. We had 39 in DUI court. We had 19 in veterans. And we had 2 starting off in mental health. We're over that 100+ mark. That's the highest we've ever been in this program.
When's your next graduation and anything?
I believe we will have a big graduation coming up in April. I appreciate Commissioner Reed and Commissioner Serino for coming out to our last veterans graduation.
Could you possibly send an email out?
I will do an email.
Thank you.
I will send that out. But our mental health court is growing. We are up to 9 now in a month, and we have 6 more applications in. That's going to far surpass the 1 employee that I have eventually. So we're having to be creative about how many folks we can take in. But it is taking off more than we had initially thought it was going to. And we're almost near capacity where we could be at for drug court and DUI. We're right at about 50 for each court. Moving towards that goal. Still, opiates and alcohol are 2 biggest things. Heroin is coming up, but so far opiates and alcohol are still our number 1, 2.
Any questions on the reports? Statement. Not that long ago, we had a drug court, period.
Correct.
And it was much smaller going through it than what it is now. And if we could come out and keep some of these people out of jail, by doing this and get them off it. I don't know about the opioids, because boy, it's a big one. Remember the whole, it seems too easy to get, unless you need them for pain. So you have a surgery, I know that.
It is, and we're trying to work through that. Part of what we do, and it's a lot of people don't like it, is when they go through it, we look at other alternatives outside of narcotics. So we have a number of our participants that will go in, they'll have root canals or teeth pulled. We ask them not to do it without any medication. They can numb it, and then we ask them to take ibuprofen. So I know some of those people like that's kind of barbaric, but I mean they can deal with the pain and they can get through it, and they don't have to rely on the substance. So we do push that. If it's a necessity, then we will allow it. But we try to encourage them to try other means and methods than going the opiate route.
There's no further questions on the reports. We'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the reports as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do you want to go through the probation report before we go into the budget?
Yeah. What do we need? Expenditures and collections, or?
Yes, sir. Just this page.
That's it, yeah.
Okay. That's the easier ones. The others are just the backup data, so you can look at the expenditures. So I'm not trying to hide anything or play fast and loose with you. So for the total expenditures for the month of February 2017, done at probation were $105,804.49. The total collection of revenue for just probation fees and screens and scram and class fees were $92,181.92. So it's a difference of about $13,622.57. I needed to check with the clerk's office. We brought in last month was approximately $4,500, $5,000.
$4,500.
In those monthly voluntary payment agreements that are coming in for probation, and we brought in right at $13,000 for the clerk and court costs and fines. So those payment agreements are coming in as we're getting those in. So I mean that's just additional revenue that I don't think is reflected in this report. But the total revenues you'll see for the month of February, combining the court's fees and all of ours, was $312,429.93. So you subtract that from our expenditures, that was a surplus of $206,625.44. Also during the month, we placed 132 cases onto a payment plan, which netted about $20,716 that was owed to probation, $175,000 that was owed to the clerk's office, for a grand total of $195,753.81. If I also have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of them that you have, or otherwise that is the expenditure report for probation.
Questions, will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the report as presented.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any further questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Now the fun part.
Fun parts. Which one do you want first? Drug court or probation, or does it matter?
Either one. Drug court.
All right.
Just to give, so you have to wonder. That was in your hand.
Whichever ones y'all would like to go to first. Hopefully y'all want Kim first before you'll see it. We've asked for an increase slightly in this budget, and I'll be happy to go through that with you all. So as you see at the top, I have shamelessly plugged myself in for a small increase with the addition of the probation department and mental health court. My time is very small, so I have shamelessly asked for a small increase. I'm okay if that's stricken. I'll still be here the next day and tomorrow. But that is why that is there.
Let me say that I wholeheartedly support that, and if there's any way it needs to be more. So, continue on.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the next line item that you'll see, there's an increase, is to my admin. I'm trying to bring him up from administrative assistant 1 to a 2. Going back and forth with both offices, I'm having to rely more and more on him to input the data into our databases through the state for our billing. That's money we get back from them, as well as to help with some of our financial documents that are submitted to the department. He will be assuming those additional roles, and that'll bring him to an admin 2. He is qualified and capable of doing this. He came from Ms. Davenport, and he was highly recommended, and he's got a background in finance and IT, so I think that is a worthwhile increase. It'll move him from a 6 to a 13. It's about a 4,500, give or take, increase for him. The next line item you'll see that goes up is line item 189, other salaries and wages. That is a relatively large increase, and the reason for that is our case managers currently, when I took over, were budgeted as a pay grade 17. Youth service officers in this county for juveniles are at a pay grade 24. With our recovery court case managers doing both case management as well as facilitating groups, doing therapy, doing twice that would normal case managers do, I think it's only fair that we would match them as what our youth service officers are, and that's what that increase is. It's just to bring them in line as to what they are. I mean, the majority of my staff has a master's degree, and when we're starting them out at $31,000 with a master's, I mean, it's going to be harder and harder for me to keep employees. I've kind of sold them now on our benefits and the vacation days and the 13 holidays that you get, and it's a great department. But I mean, it'll work for a period of time. But
it doesn't pay the bills.
It doesn't. So part of my staff, I do have one staff member that does receive government assistance because she falls under the poverty guideline, being a single mother, and that's a hard thing to look at. So that's kind of why I've asked to increase that amount. And I've increased it here, but just to give you an idea, based on the revenue projections that we brought in over the last 5 years, increasing our amount, as I'm asking you to do this, is actually going to only raise the hit to the general fund by $42,000, based on all the dollars I'm bringing in and the additional contracts. So I mean, that increase for the lifting of those pay grades for my employees is going up by $70,000 or $80,000, but the actual hit, because I'm bringing in the other contracts and the other dollars, is only a $40,000 hit to the general fund. So it is still, I know it's still an increase, but it's not as massive of an increase. The next increase below that are those dealing with just the salary increases because of Medicare going up, and those taxes are very slight. Our insurance rates did go down. I have a few employees, one that's getting TennCare, so we don't have to she doesn't take our employee insurance plan. I have another that's a veteran. He has the VA benefits, so that is a savings for me at this point. The next line item that goes up is under communication in line 307. That's $13,200. That's never been there before. What we're looking at doing is, in probation, we have a software, CSS. That's who we've been using. They have a court specialty program software, and we'll be able to interact seamlessly from one department to the next, kind of like what the Sheriff's Department, Fire and Rescue, and EMS is doing. So this will just allow us to tie it all together, and this will be the ability to be able to access it remotely at home through mobile phones. We can turn it over to the clients, let everybody see it, and our judges will now have access to those programs as well. So that's what that increase is for. I am doing a decrease in travel as well as in gasoline. We're not using that as much, so that is a decrease. I'm increasing our other supplies and materials line item 499 by $10,000. That's just the cost of drug screens. The more folks that we have, the more drug screens we're doing, and that cost is rising. But outside of that, so total overall is about a $92,900 increase that I'm asking for. But because of the extra grants that we're getting from the state, the extra fees that are being generated and things like that, it's really only about a $42,000 hit. And that's comparable to the last 5 years of data based on the actual revenue that's coming to the county.
Did we get this amount of grants before with, or did the company we had, did we get grants? The states with the feds?
They did. Mary was, she had the one state grant for 107, as well as...
that was DUI and drug
DUI.
trade.
Yes, sir. And now we have that. We are also receiving ADAT and SPOT money. We've got an additional $70,000 for Veterans and Mental Health Court. So that excess piece has kicked in. We're charging a little bit more for our program fees back to our participants. So that revenue's bringing in about $50,000 a year from our participants.
But we never got anything for probation. We just paid the other people, right?
Correct. Well, no, we got money. The clerks received money for probation. This is separate. Yes.
They generate money.
They generate.
Yeah, they do.
Yes.
For the court fines and fees.
But we didn't, my point being, we didn't get grants to do anything for probation.
Nothing.
Nothing. We probably didn't even apply. If we could have gotten them.
No, sir. And we're going to be applying for more probation grants as well. So I mean, anything that we can to enhance and to do more, not just create positions or add additional positions, but actually see a bottom dollar to it, we're going after.
Heard a request.
Make the motion to move it on to the budget as presented.
I second that.
Motion second. Further questions?
No questions, but just a comment. Trey, you certainly don't need to apologize for sticking up for yourself. You've done an excellent job for us, and I can feel pretty comfortable speaking for the committee that you've earned it. So thank you for your hard work and your team as well.
Well, I appreciate it. Staff has a large part of it. I think that they deserve the credit. But I'd rather have my staff receive the increase before myself. That's just the way I feel. So if anything gets cut, I would ask you to cut that before you cut anything else, please.
No, you've done it. You still have to lead. They still look to somebody to lead, and that's what you've done. I appreciate it.
I think overall, the vast majority, if not all of the commissioners feel the same way. That was what Commissioner Turner just said.
Agreed.
Appreciate that.
Happy, and you believe the recidivism rate is down low and this type of thing.
I believe that we're making a difference. I really do. I think that it's still early to tell, but I believe the numbers will show in the next several years.
I will second. I don't know, Commissioner Pierce, you got a second, but I didn't hear one. I'll second that. Oh, you did get one. Oh, okay.
Wait. All in favor of approving the probation budget, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Drug court budget.
That was a recovery courts. But
Well, that was, yeah, that's right. This one behind. Sorry.
We'll go on the probation.
Thank you.
That's probation. Yes, ma'am. And we have asked for an increase here as well. I'm just hitting you all up tonight. But it's, this is, part of it you'll see, it is salary. It's asking for additional positions, just due to the high case volume that we have down there. We're ranging anywhere from 3,600 to 4,000, depending on the month or the time. Staff it's becoming overwhelming for some. When they're averaging 400 people per caseload, if not more, it's hard to get it all in and to do something effectively. So I have asked for an additional 3 case manager positions, as well as a case manager supervisor to help Ms. Phillips here, who is drowning in the supervision work while I'm gone in the other part, and I'm unable to help her as much as I would like. This will help free up her to do a little bit more supervision with the staff to make sure that we are doing things that we need to. And we have, I believe, an employee or two that would be well qualified to assume that role to help her in that capacity. But the additional 4 positions there basically would mean adding 2 more probation case managers to help see that large caseload. The other 2 would be utilized for our pretrial release program. This is something that as a county and the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, we've been looking at ways and means of being able to release those in jail that can be released, that is not a threat to anyone, that is not a danger, but that is merely sitting there waiting for trial. It just does not have the ability to bond out. So this would allow them to be eligible to be released and then be supervised and just make sure that they're showing back up to their court dates. So those 2 positions would be taking over the scram as well as that pretrial release. I believe, Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's approximately, 400 to 500 inmates at the jail that's awaiting trial. So, I mean, the majority of what we're paying out there are waiting for a trial. So for those that can be released and we can effectively monitor and ensure that they show back up, I mean, that's just going to save us money in the long run. So that's what those additional 2 positions are. The other increase, a lot of that increase is due to, as we'll go down through it, for the Social Security, the pensions, the employment insurance, and all of that is the addition of those 4 positions. So it's about a 17% overall increase from last year's budget when you get down to it. But primarily it is an increase in those additional positions. We have decreased our amount of scram. I believe that our number will go down even more than that. We've decreased our amount in our contracts due to getting rid of the GSA at the clerk's office, going to a new system, so that will leave our postal charges, small, minimal decrease. The increase in training, as you'll see in the travel on line 355. I can't say a whole lot, but everyone is aware that we have a lawsuit pending against the county from PCC and things like that. If anything ever happens, there's going to be, as any lawsuit ever has, there's always a component to it that the new department that's taking it over has to spend so much time and many man hours for training for whatever it is, and that's going to be to help offset that if that should ever come into play. We have decreased our expenditures in the other contracted services, as well as increased the office supplies, and then the other supplies and materials of 499, increase for drug costs, as well as the additional staff, if approved, for their purchase of equipment for computers and phones at the office. Outside of that, that is the budget. I'll be happy to answer any questions or concerns.
Mr. King?
Yes, sir.
I know you got your probation officer broken down in pension, Social Security, all that. How much does a case officer make a year with, you know, with the, all of that added together, Social Security, all of that?
Per person, we budgeted anywhere, so starting would be about 31. 5 years is 34,100. How many had the 15? So we're looking at approximately, we budgeted out at 34, adding an additional 12 for the insurance, so that we're into 46 and the other, so about 54, 55,000 per employee.
Okay. How does that compare with the surrounding counties? Or do you...
According to this, I can't speak for Sonny. I know Stevens is doing the salary surveys, but from conversations that I've had with Montgomery County, Clarksville, they're averaging, their starting salary for their probation officers is roughly 39,000 salary, and their benefits are almost identical to what we're paying, about an 83.17.
Okay.
So I mean, we're all within that, but I mean, they are a lot higher. I did not ask for an increase like I have for the others to bring them in line with the juvenile services, because I hate to say this, but I think we are in line in what the state is paying. So I think that if there are other counties out there that are similar to what we are, I think that is a fair price.
Well, I mean, I was just wondering because my nephew's a probation officer in Bedford County. I hadn't asked him what his salary is, but I was just wondering, you know.
Right.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Other questions?
Trey or Ms. Phillips, either one, with these 4 additional, do you feel like that gets you to the break-even point, or is that actually projecting that will help for the next 2 or 3 years, some of the workload that you're gonna see?
I think a lot of it will depend on how fast pretrial gets going.
Okay.
My thought is that we need to baby step into it just a little bit. Instead of just releasing all these people, we have to make sure that we have the capability of supervising them effectively. But I would say at least to cover us to next year to see where we're at from there and see how this pretrial goes, for sure.
I just didn't, you know, I want to help meet your needs, but not just hire people just because we think we're going to need them, and we're still not 100% certain how they would fit in, but that answer helps. That's why I was asking.
Do you remember how many probation officers PCC had? Top of your head.
I think they had 11 at the time.
So we currently...
The transition, we have 9 case managers right now.
Okay.
And our current numbers are about 3,600 active offenders. That's not including those that are still incarcerated waiting to be out.
Yeah.
So right now they're carrying a caseload of 400 plus.
Okay.
So.
And we're still
They see
in
them every day,
uncharted
right?
waters.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
I said they see them every day, right?
Not quite.
It was not that many, but I mean, it is a very high volume.
Yes, it is.
But the volume was only running around 30,000, 3,000 a month a year ago, wasn't it? Something like that.
When we took over, I believe it was 2,900 and change when we took over. So we have been anywhere from 600 to 1,000 more every month.
I think one of the media outlets, I told my wife today, I said, we've got an explosion in Murfreesboro. And she said, what? Where? I said, well, that's the way one of the media outlets here in town addressed it. I mean, you know, a population explosion, in case you haven't heard. It's so that goes along with all across all demographics. You know, every demographic is going to increase.
It is, and unfortunately, as our county grows, so will probation. And that's just, it's just all about numbers. We're doing everything we can to try to minimize, you know, how often they're going back into the system. But
that's the key.
That's you know, that's going to take a time to really get that money back. But
hopefully the mental health court's going to help too.
A lot of it's helping. It is, and that's the trend. So we're trying to do everything we can to take off the back end and to try to cut costs in every way, shape, form, or fashion.
Still, jail is one of the most expensive ways we can deal with these people.
It is.
And we did recently start something with the judge's approval to implement our first sanction for an offender that tests positive for an illegal substance on their first drug screen. We now have the ability to go over an order with them to where they can actually go into one of our classes for a 10-week program in lieu of having a violation of probation for that positive drug screen. So that right there will help those offenders. Those offenders will not be going down to the jail to serve time for that violation for that positive drug screen. Instead, we're going to try to correct that problem, address that issue that they have, and bring proactive, and that would be the last drug screen, that we hope that they ever test positive for, so.
Well, eventually, you're gonna have to, I think, to Commissioner Nipper's point, we gotta look at the pay. I mean, the fact that you've got people with master's degrees that are making relatively well below what market value would be, if it's not a problem now, it's gonna be with the way the market keeps changing.
It is, I may be back next year asking for that increase, but I think at this point in time, until we can actually see how it's going to shape out,
Yeah.
right?
No,
I don't want to
right.
come and ask you,
Right.
They're gonna get some kind of increase this year.
Right, but I mean, that's what I meant. I think he did the right thing by just not doing it now and just saying, let's see how it plays out. But next year when he comes with that recommendation, we need to remember, yeah, we didn't do it last year type stuff. And of course, that's going to be for every department. That's not just unique here. We'll hear that from everybody. But I'd make a motion that we move forward with this budget with a full recommendation from the Public Safety Committee to the Budget Committee to fund this.
I'll second that.
Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We still got time. There's still places open. We'll go out and get something to eat. Do we have any further business?
Consent agenda.
Oh, thank you. That's one of the many reasons you're here, isn't it? Let's take if you haven't done it, let's take a look at the pause report. The sheriffs, I think we looked at a lot of it. And OSHA. OSHA, we didn't hear a thing about that. So, if you remember, on the budget for this jail last year, we cut it $100,000 here. And they said tonight, and I looked it up, and they've got a third of the money left for the last 4 months of the year that they have over. And it's because we're cutting down on what's going out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, that's another way we can look at this, that's saving us money
Good
too.
point. I'll wait. I was going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, but I didn't know if everybody had had a chance to look at it, sorry.
Second.
Okay, I'll make that motion, sorry. I thought a couple people were looking at it. You got to get your vote out there. But I will make that motion.
Okay. All in favor signify of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Anything else?
Move adjourned.
We're adjourned.
All right.